Kaspa here. All right, this is on a logarithmic chart. I like to use these things with the fib extensions and stuff. All right, you can see this support line, right? This yellow line right up through here. All right, pretty important we hold that. You can see how close we're coming to touch this line right here. Kind of almost looks like we're losing momentum here. All right, I want to show you something here that happened in the past here, specifically with Bitcoin. All right, it kind of ran into the same exact thing here back in the bull run. All right, I want to show you. Let's get these lines off this thing. All right, and I want to pull up the RSI here. All right, right down here at the bottom. Okay, you can see this high here, and then we had a higher high in price, a lower RSI. All right, and then what ended up happening, this thing got a pullback. If you put a Fibonacci on this thing, that's why I love these tools. They're almost like a cheat sheet, you know. Pull the fib up here, up to the top. Oh, right to the beginning of that wave right there. Would have been a 618 on the dot. Okay, this thing pulled back, but it pulled back hard. I remember that. Ended up being. Oh, let me go the other way with that. Apologize. Ended up being a. It was a 55% pull down. This thing went from 64,500 down to roughly 30,000 bucks. You know, I remember that. That was pretty devastating. It was a 5 wave down. If you go into the daily, you can count the 5 waves down. But down here on the RSI, we had this here, okay, declining, and we had price heading up. Okay, I'm going to show you that. Then over here for this last wave up, okay, you can see we had this high here. Then we did have a higher high on the RSI, but overall this thing, the momentum was just shooting down, where the price action, you know, was heading up. So just wanted to show you that, because if we go back to Kaspa here, all right, this is on a weekly. All right, we kind of have the same thing going here, especially, you know, we have an increase in price, we have a decrease on this RSI. Right, you can clearly see that. There's no question about that. Okay, you can see this thing kind of pinching in right here. Right, put this on here. It's kind of pinching into a wedge here. Okay, I don't like these rising type wedges. They tend to be bearish. All right, but let's look at some RSIs on this thing. First off, let me take you over here real quick, guys. I wanted to show you right on Kaspa's website here. They have a thanks to finance change, you can now bridge your Kaspa tokens from the Kaspa blockchain to Ethereum with just a couple of taps and unlock a world of new possibilities. That's right from Kaspa there. So now you can bridge your Kaspa over to Ethereum on change there. So they put that out, what was that, October 4th. Right, and then of course that wallet that we were going over there. Now if we go over here to the crypto bubbles, just want to see where we're at here as far as, let's pull this up. 43rd, all right, there we are. We're down to number 43, just under $1 billion market cap. Volume has slacked off, 12.57 million. All right, and one of the biggest reasons for this, all right, you can see a lot of red out there, is obviously Bitcoin. All right, Bitcoin started the day up 300 bucks. Well, now it's down $360. You know, we're going to get back to that chart in a second, but there's some exciting stuff coming up, guys. Even though a lot of this right now is, you know, sideways action or corrective moves, I'm going to show you a couple things here, okay? Especially with this Bitcoin chart. There's a few things to get really excited about here. I'm going to show you this, and bear with me a second. We're going to go out in the monthly. Oh, that's the market cap. Whoops. one of my clean Bitcoin chart. There we go. All right, now if you go out on this thing back here, this is the 2014 bull run to the 2017. All right, and there's our 2021. This is on the logarithmic too. All right, there's you can take, if you look at these charts really closely, put your trend lines on them, you can really keep track of progress, where the thing's heading, where we're at or whatever. But you can see Bitcoin here. It's a bear market right now. Okay, we're heading into a bull market next year. But I want to show you with the fib here. These Fibonacci's, I absolutely love these things. All right, this gave Bitcoin. This was a 2013 bull run to 2017. All right, the fib gave it a target of right around $4,400. This thing ended up going up to right about what was it, $19,000, somewhere around there, 19.5. All right, and in 2017, if we put a fib on here, you can see how close we came to hitting that target there. Let me get it in there. There we go. Right up, almost a full extension. This gave Bitcoin a target of 73,773, and ended up coming up to as a high of 69,000 on here. So you can see how well these things work. Okay. Now the next Bitcoin target for the next bull run. All right, this is giving it a target around $240,000. Right, you can see these fibs. I mean, they're a gem. They work fantastic. What we've been waiting for is this retrace back in 2017. You go to the top here, we had a retrace right back to the 618. All right, and back here, of course, this thing, this wasn't as long as a bear market, before this thing started ripping, and I believe this chart goes back, right back to the original, geez, could you imagine, $11, went down to $2. Could you imagine rewinding time and buying Bitcoin for $2? Can't even really chart that a whole lot, but gave it a target of $57, wicked up to $225. So I love these fibs. A $240,000 Bitcoin, that will be incredible. But look at that low, $2. Could you imagine going back and throwing 10 grand at a $2 Bitcoin? What would it be worth today? All right, but you can see $244,000 target. Now these bear markets, that's another thing I'm going to cover real quick here. All right, the date ranges, if you take it from the top, the peak to peak, all right, 1,492 days. All right, now this peak to this peak, peak was right there, 1,431 days. All right, so if we go out, say 1450, say 1460, we'll go to that's November 2025. $1,065. That was peak to peak. I apologize. This would give this thing the next bull run. Even if we go 1460, a peak in November 2025. All right, this one peaked in November 2021. This one peaked in December of 2018. Remember that. So you have December, November. This one peaked in December. So you have December, November, and this will give this a target for November of 2025. I believe the bull run's coming next year, and it all depends on this Dow Jones, okay? Because this is super, super important, guys. The Dow Jones, if you go out on this thing, our bull runs have all happened while this thing has been heading up like this, all right? I've got this thing. I've been looking at this thing all day. I've been checking this thing out. Now if we zoom in here, You know, we need, obviously, we need the Dow to be heading up to have a bull run. All right, if we look at the monthly RSI, it's pulling down. But right there, April 2021, that's when we had our last bull run. This was November of 2019. That would have been in the bear market. All right, October, November, December of 2017, bull run. So you had bull run, bear market, bull run. Of course, this one is still in the bear market, but once this reaches the bottom, you know, look at this. Should be in, you know, next spring roughly. There's our halving, April 2024. You know, so you can picture this thing just heading. There we go. By the time this thing gets back down to the bottom, you know, there's our Bitcoin halving, April 2024. This thing should be starting back up into our bull run. All right, so it looks like it's all going to play out. You know, obviously we need the Dow to be doing well. All right, so this pullback here that this thing is going to have, it had the breakout of this wedge. All right, so be watching for a pullback on the Dow here, especially with that monthly pulling down. Now, if we go back to Kaspa here, what are we on here? That's another thing I would show. I show so much, guys. I haven't made videos for 3 days, and there's a lot I wanted to show you guys. Look at the petahash, 42.05 petahash. That's unbelievable. This thing is absolutely, that's double what it was a month ago. It was around 18. It's over double, 42.16. The blocks per second, transactions per second, of course, they are they go up and down. Look at them bounce 1.4. The blocks, you'll see that go up to 2 or 3 blocks a second. It just bounces around like crazy. Here's your transactions, of course. But see, I've seen some pretty big ones on there today. But let's go back to this chart now. There's so much I wanted to show you guys. I apologize. Super important stuff. Right, now let's take a look at Kaspa. Let's get back on this weekly. All right, you can see this weekly. It's at 50.77 and 50.86. All right, you can see how close we are to coming, losing this wedge pattern. You know, most rising wedges break down. All right, that's just the sad facts of it. And when I was showing you with Bitcoin, you know, with the bearish divergence coming on this thing, all right, you had this high in price, then you had a higher high in price here, lower on the RSI, and so you can see the bearish divergence. Now, where could we pull back to? That's the tricky part here, right? If we pull back to a 618, you know, if we take it from, there's a couple places we can take this from. But the measured move, you know, if you take a measurement of this wedge, and then we'll take a look at a fib, you know, even if we take it in the middle here. You know, and I hate doing videos like this, but I have to be 100% honest with you guys when I do these, because that's the only way you gain credibility, you know, is to be 100% honest. Now, do I see this pulling back the whole way down there? Absolutely not. One thing that's tricky here is we have these RSIs. This thing can pull, you know, with the bearish divergence is what bothers me. The 12-hour RSI is about on the floor. Right, you can see that right there. The 8 hours on the floor, right down at the bottom. The 4-hour is reset. All right, you can, if you zoom in, there was a wedge pattern I was following in here earlier, and ended up breaking down on the 4-hour. But all right, let's go out here. Let's go to weekly and see what kind of pullback this thing could have. All right, if it ends up breaking, and that's what you can, right here you can see that trend line. Perfect. All right, I always tell you guys, put the trend line on it. If it breaks trend, something else is happening, right? All right, so if we go from here, put a Fibonacci on the top, all right, a 618 pullback would bring us right down here. Boy, that really would make sense too. I've been looking at this chart and looking at this chart and looking at this chart, guys. Just, trying to figure this thing out. That's a 618. Make that blue. And the 702 would be right down here. That would be green. All right, now let's get this off here. Alright, the 618 will pull this thing back down to right about 3 cents. Boy, would that be a buy. And the 702 would pull it down to 0.0267. Now, do either of these look at like great support areas? Yeah, this one here, you have a really good support area there. This one right there is solid. Alright, so if we lose this trend, look for the 0.0289 or the 0.0252. Alright, what really worries me is right here, this weekly. I covered this the other day. I said we're probably going to pull back. Alright, you can see it, if you zoom out, you could just see the loss in momentum. Alright, when you let's go with the fib on these. Alright, that first move, look at that, a perfect extension. I set a target of 0.008. It went to 0.009. All right, the next move up. This one blew past the extension. This had a target of 0.028. It ended up going up to 0.041. All right, now the next one. This is where you can really notice the momentum loss. Alright, this gave it a target of 14 cents. Alright, then even, what did it get up to? 0.053. Alright, so you can see, like I said, each one of these waves. That one overextended. This one ended up hitting a perfect extension. Alright, perfect extension on that one. Move that up. That one blew past that target, and then this one here is where we really started losing steam. And on the weekly, you can see the weekly was at the top. That's where we had this big correction here. Then we had this push up here, which ended up being pretty weak. We barely set a new high. All right, we only went up from the previous high at 22%. All right, which is nothing compared to these other ones. You had this one here. That was a 3x. And the one before that was about a 2x. Alright, so you can see a 22% just barely got a new high. Right, so I'm expecting it to lose this wedge pattern here. I'm expecting it to break down, and once it breaks, I'm sure it's going to pick up steam. I'm sure this probably isn't going to be some long drawn out thing. I wouldn't imagine. This correction here ended up taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This took a couple months. This one here, this is on the weekly. All right, you can see that pullback. Then this run up here. All right, this pullback here only lasted a month. And usually when these you lose a pattern, usually it moves pretty quick. I would imagine this thing to correct pretty fast. All right, that daily, and you could just see the loss of momentum. All right down through here. Got this high in price, then you had a higher high in price, lower on the RSI, lower RSI. So be watching for a pullback, guys. Probably, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I'm just shooting it to you 100% straight. Watch for a pullback here. It looks like we're going to lose this, even though the 4, 8, and 12 hour are pretty close to on the floor. I don't, my personal opinion, that's where we're going to pull back. All right, so let's get this over with, get this pullback done, and get back on our way up here, guys. But put your trend line on your chart, just like this. Go out in the weekly. It's easier to do it that way. Put it on logarithmic. All right, if you don't know how to do that, just go into your chart right here, click logarithmic scale right there, and that way you can keep track of this move and see if it breaks momentum. Watch for a big ABC probably to come in here. That's probably what's going to end up working out. This one weekly, if you go on the daily, be a lot easier to track an ABC, but that's probably what's going to happen. Now it looks like a lot bigger move, don't it? It's right here. All right, I would expect once it breaks this, you're going to get a big ABC coming in here. I would imagine. We'll see what happens. This move here kind of messed with my head a little bit. You had a 786 in here. I expected an ABC right here. Hit that 786 on the head. If you get in here and tweak it, right on the head. It got rejected off of it. That's where it's rolling over. Alright guys, thank you so very, very much. Please hit the like and subscribe, and I'll be back with you guys soon. Have a great day, everybody.